You ever watch someone try so hard to rewrite history they end up proving the point against themselves? Well, that's Philp in a nutshell. He was on air this week blaming Labour for the state of Britain prisons, as if the last 14 years of Conservative cuts, staff walkouts and crumbling infrastructure just never happened. And when the host reminds him this is their mess, he still refuses to own it. It's painful, it's desperate, and it's exactly why people have stopped believing a word they say. Now, the government have messed up, and this was a prime opportunity for the official opposition, but instead of making themselves look like a credible alternative, they sent Chris Gulp of Philp out. There's denial, and there's whatever Philp does in this clip. When asked who was to blame for the chaos in the prison system, the accidental release of inmates, the chronic understaffing, the years of mismanagement, he didn't pause to reflect or take responsibility. He just said that what every other Tory minister does when they're caught in their own mess. They point, deflect, and hope the audience forgets who was in charge for the last decade and a half. He blames Labour for being in power for just over a year, as if somehow 14 years of cuts, neglected prisons, and the exodus of experienced staff never happened. The interviewer even spells it out for him. Wandsworth was in special measures under your government. You cut budgets, officers left because of your cuts. What does Philp do? He pretends that none of it counts because apparently that's in the past. See, that's the problem. The refusal to acknowledge how we got here is stupidity. When you refuse to admit the damage your government caused, you're just looking delusional.
I mean, hundreds of prisoners were accidentally released when you guys were in government.
Well, look, the Labour...
I don't remember you rushing to Parliament to make statements.
Well, I mean, you know, when Conservative ministers were asked a straightforward question, they usually gave a pretty straightforward answer, which David Lammy didn't do. Look, the Labour government has now been in office for getting on for a year and a half. So I think it's pretty pathetic to for them to try and blame anybody apart from themselves.
So Wandsworth Prison was in special measures when you were in government. Second of all, we know this. You talk to ex-prison officers, talk to ex-governors. They say the big problem of the last couple of decades is lots of experienced prison staff have left. And they left because you cut the budget. They just did. The reason is that we have got lots of inexperienced prison officers now because lots of them left while you were in government.
Well, and a lot were recruited as well. More prisons got built as well.
Not experienced
But look, I come back to the point I made. We're a year and a half now into this Labour government. This is on their watch. They didn't start in government last week or last month. They've been in power for a year and a half now. They've had plenty of time to make the changes they may want to make. Now, we've got new leadership. We've got a new leader. We've got a new Shadow Home Secretary, which is me. Neither Kemi was Prime Minister, nor was I Home Secretary before. We have a new approach.
Coming back to essentially why we're in this situation, so I'll go through it again. Wandsworth Prison was in special measures when you were in government. The number of prison officers were cut when you were in government and lots of experienced officers left. And now I get down to the crux of the matter, which is how many prison places, net prison places, were made when you guys were in government for 14 years? Do you know the answer to that?
No, I don't.
You don't know that?
But I do know.
Well, I'll tell you that.
I wasn't even an MP for most of that period.
Well, I'll tell you, it was 500. The population in this country increased by millions of people over that period, and you increased prison places by 500.
And do you know how much... hang on, let me ask you, do you know how much crime went down by over that 14-year period? So and the answer is about 50%.
Yes, and what did you have to do at the end of your government? You had to release prisoners early because there were not enough spaces. To be fair to the Labour Party tonight, they may well have responsibility for this. David Lammy may have questions to answer.
Certainly does.
But the prison service was an absolute mess when you left it in July 2024. That is a fact. It was a mess. Everyone who worked in the prison service said it was a mess.
Well, OK, I mean, you may assert that, but we did have more people in prison than ever before. We had record numbers of police officers, 149,769 to be precise, and overall crime had fallen by about 50%, according to the Crime Survey of England and Wales. But look, to be honest with you, that is in the past. Labour have been in power for a year and a half, and you repeated your question, so I'll repeat my point. Labour have been in power for a year and a half. They must take responsibility for the failures that they are presiding over.
See, to Philp, it just seems to be about political point scoring. But here's the thing, he didn't even have to do it this way. If he'd just handled that interview differently, he could have actually walked out looking extremely credible. All he had to do was just be honest, acknowledge what went wrong, take ownership, and show him and his party have learnt something. He could have said, yes, the prison system faced major strain under our government, staff cuts, capacity issues, that's true, but this isn't about pointing fingers, it's about fixing what's broken. That one line would have shifted the entire tone. Suddenly, he's not deflecting, he's leading. And he could have even gone further. We can't pretend 14 years didn't happen, mistakes were made and they're still being felt today. But the focus now has to be on reform, not blame. Labour could have picked up our reforms and carried them through. See, that's how you own your own record and rebuild credibility. But instead, he just doubles down, pretending history began on the day Labour took office. And that's the part that really lands, because if you can't admit your own past, how on earth can anyone trust you in the future? And I get they want to distance themselves from their past failures. Who wouldn't? But you can't expect the public just to forget. And that's why when you try to rewrite history, it stands out like a sore thumb, which you can see in the video that's on screen now. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button, and I'll see you next time.